Hello and welcome back to the ministry. And we're talking about why did I get married. Now remember, we're doing couple by couple, not movie by movie. So we've already dealt with Terry and Diane, Patricia and Gavin, Sheila and Mike, Sheila and Troy, the dichotomy of Sheila, Mike, and Troy, which actually left off with a very interesting conclusion, which you may want to look at that. And now we're on to the pièce de résistance, Tasha and Marcus. Are we ready? Are we ready? And there's a reason why I did them last, because their relationship expands past the film. Because remember, it goes from the film to the TV series, for better or for worse. So we're going to touch ever so slightly on for better or for worse. Okay? So, let's see here. Let's just begin at the beginning. When we first meet Tasha. Or is it her name Tasha? Keep on calling her Tasha. I think her name is Trish. Yeah, I think it's Trish. Tasha is her actual name. Tasha Smith is her actual name. But it's so close. So pardon me if I interchange the two names, okay? Trish is on the train with Marcus, cutting up being loud. This is our very first time seeing her. She is sitting on the train trying to take a drink or something, and he trying to calm her down. Well, you don't need to be so loud. You don't need to. He's like, she being loud. You got a problem. Blah 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 blah. And this couple, that's what we're gonna call them. They are behind them, and they say, "You are being loud, and you're scaring our little dog." And she said, "Excuse me." And Marcus know already, oh Lord Jesus, we got a problem. She gets out from between the seats and goes back there to start fussing and cussing at that other couple. So, this is our first introduction to them. Second, they get to the cabin. First thing she says, "Hey, how you doing? What's going on? Can I get a drink, please? Can you? I had the ride of my life. Can I get a drink?" So, what do we initially gain understanding about Tasha? Tasha has a little bit of a drinking problem. She's loud. She's boisterous. She's got a drinking problem. And she is the exact opposite of what I consider Sheila to be, okay? Complete polar opposite. So, we can already tell she operates in the spirit of Jezebel. I got to be in control at all times, all times, all times. But her observation in her slight narcissism is the element of, I'ma scare you into focusing on what I need you to focus on. And Marcus is a bit of an Ahab. Whatever you say. I remember there was a scene where I don't know whether it was in this movie or the second movie, and she had acted up completely, and Terry turned around and said to Marcus, he said, "Do you even realize what?" He said, and Marcus turned around and said, "It's just Tuesday." What? And all the men sat there and looked at him and said, "You don't even notice what's wrong with her." It's like, he said, "What? It's Tuesday." He has given up on trying to figure out what her problem is. So the question is, what would make a man truly desire to be with a woman that is mentally off a rocker? Loud, boisterous, so on and so forth. 9 times out of 10 it came from childhood. Mama, auntie, somebody he grew up around was like that all the time. And funny enough, more than likely, they used a level of manipulation to keep him satiated as a child. So when he looks at her, he sees that person. So he's unbothered by it. And you know how the saying goes, most men are drawn to their mother when they get involved in a relationship. I don't care how nice the person comes off at when you first meet them. But understand this. She's only like that when she's drunk. As the film goes on, you see her when she's not drunk and she's calm. But when she's calm, you also notice that her wheels are constantly turning. She doesn't outwardly manipulate in a form of "I'm manipulating you to do what I want." But I do have to remain in control of this situation. This is why she and Mike could never be in the same space. Because she hated Mike because of his narcissistic behavior. 2 narcissists can't operate. And you will never see them, especially the type of narcissist that she was and the type of narcissist Mike was. They were never going to get along. Ever. So they end up upstairs and she's fussing to the women. "I can't stand his baby mama. She's so extra and this and that and the other." And they looking at her like, "And you not, and you not, and you not." And she sit there like, "I can't stand him, and he this, that, and the other, and all this and the other. And I know he lying, because every time he lie, he do that, you know what I'm saying? And all that kind of stuff." Then, after we get past their situation, we see out the window that Marcus is outside talking to Terry. But him and Terry having a conversation, and he kind of subtly brings up fidelity to Terry. He's like, "No, I'm faithful to Diane. I'm a little bit frustrated right now." He cuts the wood a little bit hard, but he's like, "What's your problem?" And he said, "Well, I kind of got an issue." He's like, "What's your problem?" And he's like, "I've been burning for about 3 days." This man does stepped out on his relationship with his wife. Now, it's assumed that it was his um baby mama, the mother of the 2 kids. Now, let's just talk about this. Uh, Keisha. Keisha is the baby mama. So we look at the dichotomy right here. There's another dichotomy. You don't really see Keisha too much until the series. But Keisha, she is his two kids' mother. Now, this is the dichotomy of you've got a scenario. He's had kids in a previous relationship. But you also have to look a little bit deeper. Their type of relationship literally went from he got involved with Keisha. Keisha had his two kids. I do not know whether he was married to Keisha or that was just his girlfriend. But he actually was a pro football player, I believe it was. And he had an injury. And when he had an injury, he could no longer play. He met Tasha around the time just prior to getting the injury. Okay. And I don't believe that Tasha was that boisterous. Now remember, they all went to college together. So Marcus must have been in college with the rest of them playing ball at the same college. Now, when Tasha hooked up with Marcus, I believe it was just before he was like at the point in which he was going to become pro. And he was a college football player, so on and so forth. And I don't know whether they got married right after he got, you know, he got drafted or something. I don't know whether he was drafted completely and he just got injured after being drafted, or he got injured before he was drafted. But Tasha, when she was in college, she was studying chemistry so that she could do beauty products. She created her own hairline and started her own salon set. Now, we learn as the story goes that her salons became successful, and because this is what we are introduced when Patricia is telling this story, she was very successful at it. So when Marcus became injured, she actually began to resent him. He was carrying them financially on his football, pro ball money. So he had that money, so they were both operating as a couple, as a team. More than likely, the reason that he and whatever have you with Keisha didn't pan out, it wasn't like he just left Keisha for Tasha, which I don't believe was the case. It was a scenario of he do something do. He was hooked up with Keisha and separated from her, potentially because maybe he found interest in Tasha. I don't know. I'm gonna mention something when I get to the for better or for worse side of the story. But they ended up getting together. So all in all, Tasha actually looked better to be connected to him at the time for her entrepreneurial direction, what she was doing with her life, so on and so forth. She kind of looked better to be hooked up with him professionally. They were headed to power couple status. So he married her. Both of the children were not Keisha's. One child is Keisha's. One child is hers. Keisha had the son, I believe, and she had the daughter, I think. Because I recall her saying, I don't like the way her son treats my daughter. I believe she said that at one point in time. So, because of that, they have a situation with that. So, it's a scenario of that woman gonna always be there because of the fact of the children. Now, the problem, when he became injured, he lost all of his financial standings. And I've come to find out a whole lot more about this since we are physically watching this Damar Hamlin thing play out on the news. And I heard the football proctor say the night he got injured, he said something like that had happened to him when he was in the midst of his pro seasons. And I was listening to a financial professional talk about your contract ends as soon as you're unable to play. So all that money get cut off. But see, Marcus, what he did was he helped her, Trish, start the beauty brand. But what ended up happening is when he became injured, he no longer had the money. So she actually began to resent him and never let him live down that resentment. Never letting him live down the resentment that she had for him, because now her money, because she called it her money. She always called it her money. It's like, oh, my money this, my money that. We're going to dig deeper into that. So, what ends up happening is he and Keisha always have access to each other because of the son. So, he always has to go over there. So, guaranteed, the more Tasha act up, the more he make an excuse to go over see Keisha. Because Keisha, the one thing you don't never, ever, 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 I could keep going. Don't ever want to push your man to want to spend more time with his ex than he want to spend with you. Especially when the ex has to be in your lives because there's a child involved. Because he has to go take the child back and bring the child forth to their house and so on and so forth. Because he knows Tasha's not going to go over to Keisha's house with their child. She already stated, I don't want my son around her daughter because she XYZ. She talks foul about Tasha in front of her daughter. Why? Because Marcus is going over there and talking to Keisha. I said this in the perfect match, and I'm going to say it again. The woman that is going to sit there and listen, if she's willing to sit there and listen, if you are being an ignorant annoyance, keep speaking in the air, acting like a daggone fool. And he can go over to the other woman's house. He may not even be trying to cheat on you. But she's listening. She'll sit there and she'll listen. She'll sit there and she'll listen. She'll sit there and she'll listen. She'll be that listening ear. He has to go over there because the other child is over there. So he has to. So all she got to do every time that she see him upset is, what's wrong with you? What's going on? Come talk to me. And she does it the same way in which she probably always did it when she needed to get him to calm down and sit down and talk to her. And because she's a comfort zone. Because they were together before. Anytime a man feels more comfortable with an ex than they do with you, y'all got a problem. That's a danger zone. What did I say when I was talking about 25 levels of cheating? 25 signs that the person's going to cheat before they cheat. It don't even have to be her personality to be soft, kind, and so on and so forth. As long as she opposite of what his wife is, and his wife is loud and boisterous, she know exactly how to get him. Because she knew what got him in the first place because she was with him before. All she got to be is the exact opposite of what that woman was. Not to say that she wasn't ever like Tasha. She may have been exactly like Tasha. But she knows that that's not going to get his attention in this season. And as long as he got to be around her because of the child, there you go. So when Terry asked, was it Keisha? And he gave Terry a look like, yeah. He admittedly stated he slept with his ex-girlfriend or ex-baby mama, whatever you want to say. Why? Because Tasha being loud and boisterous. She's a Jezebel in Ahab situation. So, as it goes forward, because he got his little problem, he can't sleep with his wife. Because Terry already done told him, if I get you this shot, you can't sleep with her. At least not until you know where in the world it came from. You gotta wait a certain amount of days before you can expose yourself to her. And he said, I can't do that with Tasha. Because if she want it, she just take it. Which also shows she has a level of domination about her. Meaning she's dominant even in the bedroom as much as she's dominant with her mouth everywhere else. And let's just pause here. Some men, especially men you find that will go from one woman to another woman. You'll find that even when they're not in a relationship, they go in between two different chicks. It's something about this woman that he don't get when he with this woman. And when he in this particular state, he'll go to this woman. Then when he's not in that particular state, he'll go back to that woman. Because he can get the best of both worlds with both women. There's a level with him in relation to both of these individual women. There was a reason he ended up with Tasha, and there was a reason that he walked away from Keisha. But because there's an element of Keisha having to stay around, and the fact that Tasha pushes. Let's delve deeper into Tasha then. Why would Tasha be so boisterous and pushy? Resentment would probably be the number one reason. Because she didn't want to have to be the one to be the breadwinner to carry the household, thinking that when she married him, oh, he's a football player, I'm going to have this assistance, he got all the money, that means I can grow my business and do what I want and all this kind of stuff, and we going to be a power couple, and then now that income's no longer in the house. And everything is dependent on her, which puts a lot more stress on her, and she resents that. Then on top of that, because of that, anything that the kids need, and I don't know, but in a lot of cases like that, I don't know if Keisha was getting child support from him. And as loud as she seemingly is too, because she did show up. We're going to get into that later on. But she probably has him on child support. So I'm guaranteeing what's happening is because of their mutual income. I don't know whether they have a shared bank account or what have you. Any asset that he has, if he's on child support, any money would have to be given to Keisha anyway. And if he's not on child support, any support money that he gives, who'd it come from? Tasha. Or Trisha. So she also resentful. I gotta take care of the child that ain't even ours. So every time she gets a chance, she reminds him about the fact that he ain't got no job. So when he tries to avoid having sex with her, he makes a big excuse. Oh, I'm tired tonight. I can't. And then she rolls over and tries to go to sleep. And she's like, come on. And she actually is trying to take it from him. But he's like, no. He finally gets her to get off of him. And that's when she gets up. And that's how she ended up seeing the Mike and Trina situation. So the next day, she's just observing. So when it comes down to it, and they at the dinner table, Mike ends up spilling the beans when Trish makes the effort to tell Sheila's business about the fact that Mike was sleeping around on Sheila. And then has the nerve to have this remorseful face. I'm so sorry, I had to tell you. She didn't have to tell nobody business like that. It was the narcissist in her. See, when you're narcissistic, you will literally, one, she had a bunch of liquor in her, and that's gonna bring the narcissist out even worse. what you are is going to come out of you even more. She say what she won't say and then want to act remorseful. This is that element of the narcissist that it's not the gaslighting part, because gaslighting part compliments you up and then tears you down. This is almost the opposite. This is that narcissist that I'm gonna tell you how I feel about you, but then I'm gonna be all sympathetically and remorseful because I'm gonna have to rechange this situation. Sorry, because she got that real I'm sorry face on her. And let's think about this. She did that to her best friend. Imagine what she do to Marcus all the time. Anything she knows that she can manipulate to throw back into Marcus's face, she gonna do the exact same thing. And a person like that, you can almost not trust their apologies, which we literally see moments later when Marcus finally has to admit, when Mike says, did Marcus tell you that he got VD? And Tasha turned around and say, who was it? And Marcus turned around and said, it was Keisha. It was Keisha. She turned around straightly and said, it wasn't Keisha. That was Walter. She was cheating on him too. And he's like, Walter, what you talking about? I don't sleep around with no man. He's like, oh no, you don't. I slept with Walter. I got the shot. I was waiting for you to say something. You see how she operates? They are in a toxic relationship. And I'm going to come back to dig a little bit deeper in this with these two. Because they are extremely toxic to one another. It's almost like they do it to one up each other. I want to say this right here. This is when you see that woman that has the essence and say, I don't like the good guy because he ain't XYZ. It's the same thing what happens with guys. Toxicity. They like to fight because they're living on the rush of the sexual tension. I'm going to be right back and we're going to pick up.